being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20-A, parentheses 16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. Marty is attending a funeral, so as vice chair, he asked me to conduct this meeting. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which he sent out. And wanted to also mention that Daniel Bailey is under the weather this evening, so he won't be attending to represent the Planning Commission.
Lee, do we also have to announce the people who are present at the meeting?
Well,
I think we've
Yes,
done that
you
in
do. Yes, you do.
well, I guess you can read them, right? Daniel Heyer's here to present his stuff on the phase 2 of the corridor study. Rick Seaman, Brian McMillan, Audrey Coker, Judy Schlessel, Nancy Hunt. Serena Gruia is also with the corridor study. Todd and Kendra. And it looks like David Benish is in the process of logging on, and there's Peter Thompson. So with that, we have
Lee, unfortunately, I just got a call from Marty Davis. She's not able to join the meeting due to a family emergency.
well, we have a quorum in any case, so we shall proceed.
Do we have a
Oh.
secretary?
Well,
I don't see Tom.
yeah. Well, whatever. I can take some notes. So,
Well, maybe somebody would volunteer to be secretary.
well, I'm open to suggestions. You want to volunteer, Nancy?
Well, you know, I've chaired and done a whole lot. Maybe someone else could step up to the plate, but if nobody else is willing to, I will take minutes.
Going once, going twice.
I'm embarrassed for everybody.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
All right, back to the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? And if not, then need a motion to approve.
Real quickly, I just jumped in. Lee, did you call the meeting to order with the?
I did, and
with
I
the
read
language that we need
Yep.
to do? Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
Because I did find it.
Yeah. I move acceptance of the minutes as presented.
Is there a second? Brian McGowan seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, well, without further ado, then we will turn the time over to Daniel Heyer to present what he has on phase 2 of the corridor study. Floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee, appreciate it. As a precursor to our time together tonight, I will be fully transparent that I have back-to-back engagements at 6 and then at 7. So I'm going to move swiftly through my content and turn the floor over to you all, the CAC, to share as much as you can as we begin to wrap our heads around phase 2 of this study. And so I'm going to aim to be done with this by 6:45, and if we have to bleed a little past that to 6:50, that's okay. If we get to 6:50, you might see me exit stage right relatively quickly. Kendra Patrick, my colleague, is here tonight as well, so if there continues to be, well, actually, she has to jump off too. So with that said, we're going to aim for 6:45. So here we go. I hope everyone can see my screen. I'm going to full screen it here.
Yes.
Rye Road Phase 2 Corridor Study. This is an introductory discussion to gauge user experience feedback. It's more or less a listening session for us tonight with a little bit of background information and then some hopefully probing questions and then probably some more organic questions that result as we discuss. This graphic probably is familiar to many of you. This is Phase 2 of the corridor study, which more or less begins at the John Warner Rio intersection or thereabouts, and then traverses south all the way to the city jurisdictional boundary. So again, tonight we're going to focus on Phase 2. There may be some interest or some questions in Phase 1, but to the greatest degree possible, because they're running on different schedules, we're going to try to keep tonight as focused on Phase 2 as possible. So, oh, that's a blank slide. Okay, threw myself for a loop there. Sorry. So, these slides are seemingly out of order. That's great. Well, we'll go with it anyway. So, really, there's a couple things that I want to present to you tonight as we get started. As you know, there's a number of projects that are both happening along the corridor, projects that have been planned along the corridor, and projects that may show up in the future along the corridor. So we want to be clear about what we know is happening and what is intended. And we want to use that as kind of foundational understanding and interest to begin our dialogue together. Obviously, there's Rio Point and some of these developments closer to the north end. And then there's some projects in the center and some projects toward the south. So there's a lot happening. And I'm sorry, this is the wrong presentation. This is interesting. Let me stop my share for just a moment. I apologize, everyone. That's not fun. We're already pressed for time. Well, this is certainly not good. Okay, here we go. Totally had the wrong presentation. My apologies. Here we go. Very good. All right, Phase 2. Okay, I knew something wasn't quite right. My apologies. So we've basically broken Phase 2, what we're going to call 3 phases: north, central, and south. And within each of those zones, for lack of a better description, there's going to be different things that we're observing and different things we're interested in, and different things that we don't know yet. So we're going to want to hear from you. Along the north, at least what we're aware of right now is that there's projects that have been recently developed, which are changing the character of the corridor. And there's projects intended to happen soon, which will affect the character of the corridor. In the central region, that's the green oval in the middle, that area is largely developed. There have been some recent developments like the loft apartment right there next to the Catholic school. But that area is largely developed, but still there's room for some improvements in there from a roadway corridor standpoint. And then the southern zone is very interesting and very starkly different than the other two. It remains largely undeveloped. It still has a lot of remnants of an older rural road. It's hard to say that it has a lot of character to it. It kind of seems like this forgotten stretch between where the county kind of starts and the city kind of starts. And certainly there's some safety concerns in that area as well. So some of the questions we'll revisit in a little more detail in a few moments are, these are guiding questions. These are not, we can listen to feedback really about anything you want to share about. But within the north section, we're curious to hear from you, the CAC, and the citizens of the area. How can this Phase 2 study influence and guide some of the frontage conditions of these developments that are coming in the near term? What would you like to see there? What is needed from your perspective? In the central zone, we're curious to hear from you specifically what amenities you think are missing along that portion of the corridor, or are there safety improvements in that portion of the corridor? And then along the southern portion, how do you use this portion of the road? How do you see this portion of the road needing to be used? And what would you like to see in that area of the road? Here's a few context images to kind of help us all really be on the same page about how we're describing things. This is an aerial image of the northern portion of Phase 2 Rio Road, with what will be the Rio Point development on the left. And here, this portion of the roadway we've characterized as a neighborhood collector street. Still has a little bit of rural character left, but that probably won't be the case for much longer. And the right-of-way is relatively constrained between 40 and 60 feet. And this is a part of the roadway that's really transitioning toward Rio Road from Phase 1, where it's, you know, starkly different visually and characteristically with its four-lane divided highway. Here's an aerial image of the central portion of Phase 2, the central zone, which we're still characterizing largely as a neighborhood collector street, but the right-of-way has gotten much broader here, maybe overly broad, to be honest. It's quite broad in front of the loft apartments. And strangely, there's a little bit of a urban context with these buildings and their frontage conditions. So that's definitely a noticeable difference. But there are sidewalks with buffer strips, which is great. And here's an image of the southern zone. And as you all know, this is a very tricky part of the corridor to really want to define in any context. It's a twisting, turning road that feels like it could be unsafe. There's no pedestrian amenities. The right-of-way varies and the topography is tricky. So this is an area we're going to be very keen to hear from you, but also to see what opportunities are available. Here's a quick breakdown of what we know is happening and what we're currently aware of. And if you see something missing, please let us know. Obviously, the left side of your screen, that's the John Warner Parkway. And on the right side of your screen, that's the city jurisdictional boundary. So we're going to move from left to right. The John Warner Parkway Rye Road intersection is a known project that will happen soon. Number two, there's a county sidewalk project happening currently where they're improving some pedestrian facilities along Rio Road in that area. Three, Rio Point development and the zoning map amendment, which when I wrote this, it was pending. It's no longer pending, as I understand. So there's a project happening there. Four, the Rio Commons development. Again, I think that's a by right development, so that's happening also soon. Five, there was a roundabout study done in the past of Penn Park Road at Waldorf School. There was a small roundabout study conducted there, which we'll lean on to learn a little bit about what they know from that study. Number six, there's a county sidewalk project just south of Penn Park Road. Number seven, there was an intersection study done at Penfield Lane, or Penn Park Lane. And so that's another group of data set that we're going to lean on and learn from. And eight, although I have no understanding of when or what will happen with Eco Village, but it's certainly something I've heard a lot of talk about and seen a sign up for years. And I imagine at some point there will be something that happens there. So there is stuff happening on this portion of the corridor. And our hope is that you can help us color in the lines so we can understand more about these things. So this is where I'm actually going to stop talking for the moment, and I can talk more if you want me to, but really, I want to open the floor to the CAC, members of the CAC, or even citizens who are joining. We'd love to learn what you learn what you know, and hear from you about your experiences, about what's missing and what you'd like to see, so that as we start to get into phase two, we can be equipped with as many experiential data points as we can. So I'm just going to stop. I'm going to give it back to you, Lee, and let you maybe help guide folks answering questions and sharing their insights. And we'll be taking notes and listening.
Okay. Any comments so far from anybody? Judy. You're muted, Judy. Still can't hear you. Well, I guess while, okay, Judy, can I hear you? Oh, she's still working on it.
No, not happening.
In the interest of time, how about we go to Audrey? You had something to say, so go ahead, Audrey, and we'll get back to Judy then as soon as she gets through.
Regarding the southern portion of this map, I use this road to get to and from other places. I don't do any stopping along the way. What I don't like about the area is the urban nature of it. I don't think the setback is deep enough on properties. And so future properties, I would like to see greater setback. So it retains that rural nature, but yet provides housing and that need for more housing. That's all.
So in the southern portion, Audrey, you'd like to see that whatever happens there be with a more generous setback in terms of how buildings relate to the roadway.
Yes, yes. I feel with the curves and stuff, I need to pay attention to the road, but then there's the looming buildings all around, and it just is, distracting. And I'd like to see we preserve that rural part of that road.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Oh, I have one other issue. I don't know how many families are going to be in this area and how many children are being projected, but I did an informal little study from Woodbrook down to the end of Rio. And there are no facilities for teenage kids and kids over 5 to play. And I think that roadway without adequate sidewalks is too hard to get to Penn Park. So more recreational facilities.
Great.
All right,
Yeah,
Judy.
thank you. That's really good. Thank you, Audrey.
Welcome.
Okay, Judy, you want to try again?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you
Okay.
can.
So, good evening, Daniel. I have a question that's sort of an offshoot from last night's Board of Supervisors meeting. They talked about the traffic circle and the fact that there is surveying started. Can you tell me exactly where the surveying is started? And are we talking about the VDOT plan or your plan?
There, we're talking about the VDOT plan, Judy.
Okay.
Daniel's probably not going to have very much information on that.
Okay. So where exactly have they started the surveying?
What do you mean? Where the footprint of the smart scale application is designed,
Okay.
the current intersection.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Where is my David? Am I wrong on that?
No, you're correct. What they typically do, and I don't know the great details of it, but they will do a survey of the general area. That's the sort of the beginning process of their plan. So they know where the boundaries are, what size of the properties and such. So it's a very early and first step in the planning process, but it's for the VDOT proposal.
All right, Rick, you're next.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Several thoughts and comments. The first is that Ryle Road over the past 20, 30 years has really, in many ways, changed its orientation in the sense that the main road now, starting in 29 and goes down Ryle Road and then continues on the John Warner Parkway as the main artery. The piece that we're now talking about in phase 2, I'm almost beginning to refer to as Old Ryle Road, because it it really was intended, when VDOT built the John Warner Parkway and built the intersection at KTEC, they deliberately intended for traffic to proceed down Ryle Road and then down the Parkway. They did not, and they made, that's why they made it difficult to make a turn from Ryle at that intersection onto the section of Ryle Road that we're now considering. It was never supposed to be a continuous, or the preferred route, let's put it that way. Preferred route was to go down the Parkway. So when I look at Old Ryle Road, one of the things that concerns me, if we look at the north section, we're really going to be in a situation of trying to figure out how to accommodate another big chunk of housing being built there on the, I guess what would be the southern side of the north portion of Ryle Road. And how do we figure out, right there, how do we figure out how to get people into and out of those new developments in a reasonable fashion? So that's the first part. Second part is, if you look at the central section, what I think I absolutely agree with you that it's over wide. What happens in practicality is that people coming, let's say, from KTEC, and I can never figure out whether that's going east or going south or whatever it is, but going from KTEC toward downtown, traffic flows along that section of Ryle Road, and when it gets to when it gets to the light at Penn Park, you're still kind of on a, as you say, a more rural collector road. It opens up there in front of Treesdale and the Lofts, but people going in that direction tend not to speed up because they know that southern section is coming, unless they are not from around here. But if they're from around here, they know that section's coming, and you crest the hill at Stonehenge, and they slow down because you can't see from that point forward. However, if you're going in the other direction and you're coming up that S curve, up the hill, you get to Stonehenge, you crest that hill, and all of a sudden you've got this wide open vista, and people who have been frustrated at coming up through those S curves decide this is the place where I can speed up and going in that direction. And if they happen to get lucky and the light at Penn Park Road is green, they're able to, they move right through there, and they'll be hitting 45 miles an hour coming past Gunlaura Forest because of that open area in front of the Treesdale and the Lofts. What I would like to see is, I'd like to see this whole road, as Audrey points out, be more of a collector road, have more of a neighborhood rural type character, which would mean taking that central section and really scaling it back. Now, in terms of how that road gets used, quite honestly, what happens is people who want to go to the west side of downtown, they want to go to either the 250 bypass, or they want to go downtown down McIntyre Road and get to the west side of downtown Charlottesville, will go down Ryle Road and take the Parkway. People who want to go to the east side of downtown, they either want to go to the Court Square Mall side of downtown, or they want to get to the 250 bypass, as far east as they can go. They're the ones who are going to take Ryle Road, Old Ryle Road, down through Park Street and either get on the 250 bypass at the Park Street interchange or continue on downtown to the Court Square area. So they're using it So it really, it divides right there as to what your destination is.
Yeah.
In terms of, usage for that particular area, I think Audrey's absolutely right. It's mostly for through traffic. Not very many people are going to find reasons to stop there unless they're heading for Penn Park. Now, I will say that I personally am not in favor of having a roundabout at Penn Park Road, because then there will be no breaks in the traffic. We talk about roundabouts and we say, yeah, the roundabouts are great because you can keep traffic moving. But if we have a roundabout at K-Tech, we have another roundabout at Penn Park Road, there's nothing to stop the traffic to allow people to get in and out of either that. You can, to try to get onto Rio Road at that point, there's no brakes. The traffic light creates a break in the traffic flow. So those are my main concerns and comments.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. That's really good to hear. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And I also, I want to make sure that as we get as many folks also sharing as possible, I think it might be good to keep our time to maybe 3 to 4 minutes so I can hear as many folks as possible. But I do appreciate everything you said, Rick. So, Audrey, is your hand back up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, go for it.
While there's an interest in preserving the ruralness of the old Rio Road, I really believe that the intention of that road is to pull traffic off the John Warner Parkway. Just as along 29, you built parallel roads to take the traffic off 29. I think that's what's happening to this road. And the Rio Road, the old Rio Road, is not set up for that. The county and the powers that be in the city and the county gave up the idea of making John Warner a 4-lane highway, and now we're stuck. And so now there's this effort to I think, to make Old Rio Road a parallel road to John Warner to take off traffic, and that is wrong. And I think that's inappropriate. Sorry to be so frank.
No, thank you. And I for some reason my video feed stopped, but I can still hear everyone. I hope you can hear me as well.
Yep. Judy, do you have something
go on.
additional to say yet? Now I can't hear you again. On mute.
Yeah,
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I had some additional thoughts. So as construction is going along, I'm hoping that both the people from VDOT as well as Line and Grade will be very, very sensitive, at least for the present time, about the field of flowers. There was one day that I came by and there were a whole bunch of trucks parked right in the middle of it. Those flowers are having a real difficult time in growing. Let's give them a half a chance as long as they're going to be there. So if you will make sure that your construction people are aware of that, that would be appreciated. So that was number one. And then to sort of piggyback on what Rick was saying about the traffic flow, last night with Rio Point, it was brought up about the left at the exit left-hand turn. And I think that that's another section that you're going to have to be very, very much in tune as to how the traffic is going to flow coming out of Rio Point or going into for that left turn when you're coming up from the downtown area.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy.
Nancy?
Yes, I have one process point. I see that Tom is there. Tom, I've been taking minutes, but if you're on deck, maybe you can pick up at this point.
Okay. Okay, Daniel, it looks like that's the extent of the.
I'm not, Tom didn't answer. Does that mean even though I saw a picture of him, he's not going to take the minutes?
I think he gave a thumbs up, so
Oh, well, I didn't show on my screen, so.
Yeah, I'll do it,
sorry.
Nancy. I'll start. Thank you. If you
And
can send me what you've got sometime, appreciate it.
I'll coordinate with you.
Thank you.
I also have actually a substantive point, and that is, I find it difficult to comprehend why we would want, what is a somewhat significant roadway into the city should remain rural when pretty much this entire area has the potential for fairly dense development. So I don't need to have a big discussion about that, but I would just register that point with Daniel.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate your thoughts.
Rick, do you have another comment or, well, go ahead. No, you don't?
Well, the only thing I can say is that I think we have to realize the fact that the city is not going to improve Park Street. So having a roadway that has a greater carrying capacity that goes into a city street is probably not going to create, the kind of objective that we were looking for moving traffic. That's all I can say about that.
No, that's good. It's a good
All
note.
right. I think in the absence of any further comments, Daniel, go ahead and proceed.
No, this is what I'm here for. I'm here for like
okay.
as much I'm here for boots on the ground experience and listening to folks, and anything you want to share, we're here to listen to. The only thing I think I would make a comment on, just for clarity, I think is to Mrs. Slushel. And I don't know how much sway I'm going to have on what does or doesn't have at the flower garden, but I'll certainly make note and share that with someone. But that we're not proposing anything there at this time. So I'm not sure how much effort I can do to move the needle one way or the other, but I'll share your thoughts.
Nancy, you have another comment? Your hand's still up.
No, I have another comment.
Go ahead.
It doesn't, if there's no more comments on phase 2, Marty thought we could also comment on phase 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna restrict that though. Because we're very limited on time, so we'll hold off on phase 1 comments.
Will we have a future opportunity? Will we have a future opportunity to weigh in on phase 1 in January?
Apparently, yes.
Of course, yeah, of course. We're trying to keep the conversations at least somewhat siloed, because there's such different roadways, as you all are helping us continue to learn. I have a question for folks who live kind of, really along the northern section of this. If anyone here lives, closer nearby between John Warner and Penn Park Road, but for the school morning and afternoon hours, when people are, I presume that there's a lot of traffic associated with the Waldorf school and the Catholic school with regard to drop off and pickup. But that's more of just an intellectual exercise for me. I'm curious if you'd notice increased traffic certain times of day, or if it's unbearable during certain times of day, really related to, I think, when I'm saying the school pickup drop off, but really you can go with that any way you want. But we're curious how those schools affect some of this, these peak hour factors. Go ahead, Rick.
I can speak to that in the sense that I live in Dunlower Forest. So
Okay.
Now, it's interesting. The Waldorf school doesn't really have a large impact time-wise. First of all, their enrollment is very small. I think it's only 130 some students. So the comings and goings there don't seem to make much of a difference in the overall traffic flow. Catholic school, on the other hand, has a much larger enrollment, and of course, because they're not providing with bus service, everybody comes by personal car. The thing that benefits the Catholic school is, if you look at their layout of the campus, they have the ability to stack a large number of cars on their property, which they do in the afternoons, particularly for pickup time. You know, they have a way to stack probably 50 or 60 cars in there waiting to pick kids up. I think, you know, really the impact is heavier on Penn Park Road than it is on Rio Road. Rio Road, they just kind of blend in with the rest of the traffic, but on Penn Park Road, it gets pretty heavy and congested for the Catholic school during the morning and afternoon hours.
That's a great distinction to make. Thank you, Rick.
Which is another reason why
Tom,
you may find a roundabout at that area could be a problem rather than a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Tom, I see your hand up. Do you have some thoughts to share?
Yeah, for the most part, you don't see a lot of traffic in the school except occasionally a couple times a year. They have some school-wide events and there are people just parked all up and down Penn Park Lane and all over the place. And it gets a little dangerous at times. But that's like 3 or 4 times a year. It seems like the way these city or school-wide events. That's the only thing. I don't think there's much you can do about it, but it does occur.
Thank you. Do you have more to say, Tom? I see your hand still up. Okay. Ms.
Judy?
Schlussel, go ahead. I see your hands up. Judy,
Yes.
is your hand up to?
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you are. Go ahead.
As far as traffic, the typical time when people are going to work and when people are returning home is when you see somewhat large backups at the lights.
When you say backups, are you talking about it at Penn Park Road or backups at the current light at John Warner as well, or both?
Yes to both. Yes to
Okay.
both. Yes, because sometimes the traffic
Great.
is backed up. Oh, I'd say is sometimes almost as far as till Belvedere. I've seen it. You know, in the evening, not so much. I think, well, traffic's going the opposite way in the morning, but in the morning it seems to be when people are leaving and the traffic is headed, you know, into the city or up Rio to head up 29 North. So that's another high traffic impact time.
Great. Thank you.
I guess I'll make one comment, Daniel, if I can. Where the S
Sure,
curve
go
is,
for it.
the area circled in red.
Yep.
I mean, not only is that fairly unsafe in terms of traffic, but it's worse for bicycles. So yeah, if there was some way to maybe straighten that a bit or at least widen it, I'm sure that would help. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, no, we're scratching our heads there for sure. It's definitely not safe for a bike or a pedestrian. Brian, I see your hands up. We haven't heard from you. Do you have some thoughts to share with us?
I actually have more of a question for the people that travel it more often than I. What impact does no trucks being allowed on the Parkway have on that section of road? Because if they come down Rio, that they have to take what we've been calling Old Rio, right, to get to 29 to 250, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, actually, Brian, I don't believe trucks are supposed to proceed down Rio at all past Fashion Square. There's a sign there that says no through trucks.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, that I was just something I was thinking of because I know there's no trucks on the Parkway.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. And really, you don't notice. I mean, there really aren't any large trucks that come down this section of Rio Road unless they're lost.
I believe trucks are routed down Hillsdale Drive before they get that far.
Okay, I've got a few moments left and I see two hands up. Let's see if we can get to Nancy and Audrey. Your hand's been up long. Let's go to Audrey and then Nancy.
I have a general question. When Judy mentioned the backup at Penn Park, and that'll eventually become a circle. My question is about a general question about circles. Is there a point at which traffic gets too heavy for a circle to be helpful?
Like any intersection, too much traffic will put it into a non-functioning level of service. So if you have a circle or a light, they all have a certain threshold at which they won't operate properly.
Well, then how long will these circles be effective down the road before some major other kind of change is needed? Like an eastern bypass?
Well, you know, I can't speak a whole lot to that yet. I'm not certain that there will be a roundabout at Penn Park Road. That's a previous study that we've inherited as something to think about. I don't know that our study will also recommend that. And in terms of, just because I've thought about it a lot more, the roundabout at John Warner, the VDOT designed roundabout, that's mostly a dual lane roundabout for most movements. And a dual lane roundabout can carry an immense amount of traffic, an immense amount. So I presume that roundabout will be sufficient well into the future, probably to the point where people aren't even using cars anymore. We're using hoverboards or something. So I presume it's going to be fine for a long time.
So that
Yeah,
Penn
go
Park,
ahead, Nancy. Oh, I'm sorry, Audrey. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
so that Penn Park roundabout is still theoretical. That's not a done deal.
Very much. Yeah.
Whoa,
No.
okay. I'm finished.
Nancy, go ahead. And I think we're going to aim for this to be our last question, if that's okay. Go ahead, Nancy.
It's not a question, it's really, well, sort of is a question. To Brian's point, the signs do on John Werner Parkway say no trucks, but if you travel John Werner with any regularity, you'll see that there's no enforcement of that provision, and there's some pretty significant trucks. It doesn't specify what kind of no trucks. I don't think I've ever seen a double semi come through there, but I've seen some very large vehicles that and some of them are county and city vehicles. And the same is true. I would think that as you go down Rio, the one reason you wouldn't want to go down Rio South if you were a big truck is it's a bit of a difficult road to maneuver unless you're going to Home Advantage or whatever that home repair operation is.
Yeah. No, thank you for your thoughts. I know on my end, and I'm personally going to summarize with this. I'll start by saying, to the greatest degree possible, we'd like to keep this conversation going in its silo. And you can see why I love the term Old Rio Road. And I'm going to start using that almost exclusively, I think, to talk about phase 2. We want to hear, as you have experiences or thoughts over the weeks ahead, feel free to drop them to someone at the county or to me directly so we can receive your thoughts, your experiences. We've heard some interesting things tonight that I had not considered, so thank you. We'll come back and talk to you about this again soon. I think the next time we talk to you, it'll be about phase 1 again, and we'll be reporting back on kind of trying to put a button and a bow on that, the phase 1 study, and then focus the rest of our efforts on phase 2 for the months ahead in early 2022. But again, thank you for your time. Each of you, thank you for your feedback. And we do want to continue the dialogue, so feel free to share your thoughts with us as they come to you. With that, Lee, I'm going to pass this back to you and try to sign off unless there's any kind of final remarks I need to hear.
I don't think so. So Daniel, thank you for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you at the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll see you all in January. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, and we'll see you all in the new year.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, Ned, I guess you're up next.
I don't have a whole lot tonight, so I'll be happy to take some comments or questions if needed to do some follow-up on. The Allen and Allen building is down. I didn't even know that was happening until I drove by. I was like, huh. Well, every time I go there, just to do my own personal errands. So, it's like one time I go by, there's a building, the next time there's no building. So that was, so that should come off the list, I guess. I mean, we still have to watch the area, but the building itself, I think, is what was the main problem, just because there was a building being used as shelter, et cetera. I haven't received or haven't seen my own issues with traffic around the Chick-fil-A over there. So I don't know if that's still an ongoing issue or not. I know that they were working on their redirecting through their own parking lots just based on the signage and stuff. So I don't know where we stand with that.
Okay.
The sidewalks are obviously over on Royal Road are in motion. Everybody's been seeing that's moving along. So that project will be coming to conclusion soon. Anything that has to do with maintenance, medians, like I know I've gotten more information on I know those shrubs and such that are between Dunmora and Belvedere. I mean, all of that I'm kind of putting in a basket that I'll be addressing. We're targeting budget season for that. The whole board seems to have interest, especially with median type thing and weeds and things that are growing up out of that. So we've engaged VDOT, and I expect that's going to be, like I said, a healthy conversation during budget. So I would group all of that into that category. So probably March, April will be the next update on that as budget season goes through. Obviously, Ryle Point was approved last night. There's some concerns I have about that entrance in and out of that particular development, but it seems that the developer and staff are certainly willing to continue to have some additional conversations about that entranceway. I'm talking about the main one, not the right in, right out spot. So that's going to be on my ongoing radar as that progresses. And then I know there are still geese down on Hillsdale. I was waiting yesterday morning myself for the geese, Nancy. I usually don't talk about geese until I see you there, but they were crossing up closer to Java yesterday and created our own little backlog of traffic until the geese all safely passed. And then obviously we've started at the county level, we've started our comprehensive plan update. So that's just getting going. So we've approved the timeline and that process will be playing out. So I would imagine that's one the CAC will be paying attention to. And then as we get ready for budget, we'll be quickly into budget. Anything outside of like the medians. Budget is a time where I always tell people that elected officials' priorities always shine through when they're voting on where they're going to program money. So I would just be paying attention to that process as well. Happy to answer any questions or add anything or take some orders, if you will, if there's some things that I should go check on and come back at.
Yeah,
Audrey,
go ahead.
Ned, I want to just update you on some things that I hear in the neighborhood. One is we've had a rash in Woodbrook. We've had a rash of catalytic converter thefts. They seem to go down. Traffic speeding, not stopping at stop signs, and unpaved roads. So VDOT hasn't finished paving in that area. I think these issues are being taken care of by individual residents who will call VDOT and the police and stuff like that. But I wanted you to be aware of those kind of problems going on in neighborhoods and help whatever staffing or supportive policing, funding or whatever is needed so we have patrols.
We just, like here at my dealership, we pulled the Prius, especially the Prius, into the dealership at night. I've already had 5 cars on the lot that have been, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
if you own a Prius or know anybody owns a Prius, they need to find a secure place. Or I hear that people can, whatever they're taking from a Prius, they can get $1,200-1,300 for it. So that's why they're stealing these things.
I think the neighborhood is concerned that more investigation isn't reported or is not being done. And I think there's some lead on what car dealers, or not car dealers, but metal companies that buy and sell used car parts aren't being investigated more deeply.
Well, it's the silver they're getting out of it and selling. So it's the metal processing. It wouldn't necessarily be showing up on a car distribution network.
Oh, well, we hear it is, but that's just gossip.
Yeah, I mean,
There's one out in
that'd be a
Ruckersville.
hell of a thing if I replaced a catalytic converter system with one that was stolen off of that very car.
Yeah, there's one out in Ruckersville that apparently is buying these things from thieves.
But it is
reselling them.
this is an issue all over. It's hitting lots, it's hitting private sellers, all of that. The speed issue, there is one in there that I'll be talking to the VDOT rep about doing. It's a place where I think there are no stop signs. I'm forgetting the street names right off the top, but I've got them written
Brookmere
down.
and Brentwood.
So that is on the radar. And the paving issue, I'm happy to pass that note along to see what's going on. Is this stuff that was repaved? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. But there's nothing that's not paved in Woodbrook. It's all paved, but every so many years they do roads, and some were done and a few weren't.
Yep.
I think Idlewood was not done, and a lot of painting lines isn't complete. Yellow lines isn't complete.
Yep, I can get some send some notes over there, see if we can get an update. That tends to be an easy one to get some info on.
Mhm. And I think our neighbors are very active and are calling and are sharing VDOT how to do that.
Yeah, VDOT's almost more responsive to citizens reaching out directly through their site
Yeah.
sometimes than
Mhm.
us squawking at them,
Mhm.
but we usually get a response too. So if you're not getting, or if
Mhm.
somebody's saying they're not getting any response or something's not happening, let me know.
And again, kids are in the schoolyard after dark, and the kids tell me, the teenagers, that the regulation size basketball court was not made when Woodbrook School was expanded. There is some basketball facilities, but they're for younger children. It's not a full court. So again, this recreation for teenagers is missing in our whole area. And the Woodbrook School, that green area was designated as green area for people in our area, and we're losing that. So when new schools are built, we need to think about the neighborhoods they're in and provide some opportunities for kids, older kids. There's always playgrounds for kids under 5 and under, or maybe up to 10, but nothing for older kids. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Nancy? Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah, I had to, I couldn't find you. My picture jumped. Yes, you're correct. I saw the Allen and Allen building being demolished. I just, happened to be going to Kroger when, and I never do that, but so I can witness that. It won't solve the homeless problem of the hangout generally, but it was my understanding that there was a car wash that was potentially going to go in there. And once that's operational, that will help. But I have a big concern about Hillsdale and Greenbrier, and the speeding on Hillsdale, and the traffic has really picked up. And the people coming out of Fashion Square Mall, if they see you coming south on Hillsdale, they don't want to stop at the stop sign. They just blast out into the road. So I've been hesitant to say we need more police action in that corridor, but I think the time has come, and hopefully the new recruits will be able to provide some impetus. Once again, somebody's whacked down the Hillsdale Greenbrier street sign on the Laurels corner, which is the southwest corner. I've reported that. Emily tells me that it's VDOT, and VDOT told me last time it wasn't them, it was the county. It's definitely part of the county, not the city. So it'd be nice to have that sign up and not have it take 3 months to get repaired. And I think that it is time to do another traffic study. You are correct that the traffic study that VDOT did right after Hillsdale opened was ill-timed, was not supposed to happen at that time. It was supposed to happen a full year later, but they did it sooner than anybody anticipated. So between speeding and now the VIA, I guess is the way you pronounce it, the Virginia Institute of Autism moved into the senior center building. And there's four corners of very vulnerable population. And I think that we already met one of the warrants, and I think we'll probably meet most of the warrants. So if you want me to harass VDOT, I will, but I think that request for the speed study probably has to come from the county.
That is usually well, not that particular item, but that area is noted in their quarterly report. So the next time they're in front of us for the quarterly report, I think would be a good opportunity for me to reintroduce some of those topics.
Thank you.
Audrey?
And the speeding, you're right, we have hired some positions and for county police. So both to Audrey's comment about the enforcement in there and the Hillsdale corridor, I'm happy to pass that along to Chief Lance and see even if it's just some spot patrols that can help in that regard.
I've seen them behind cars waiting to catch somebody, so they're trying. Long term, I think we need a satellite police station in Northern Virginia, in Northern Albemarle County to respond to things. And my other and last comment is: are there any long-term thoughts about the traffic in the whole Albemarle County? Ryle Road, we're discussing traffic, Hillsdale, but 29 North is just awful between, between 250 and Ruckersville. It's just double lane, bumper to bumper. And I don't know if long-term thoughts, or if that's county or VDOT, but it's getting pretty bad.
Traffic is talked about in every section of the county.
Yeah, it is. But is VDOT or anybody looking 30 years ahead?
Well, I mean, when you look at the long-range transportation plan that the MPO does, I mean, we've got a list of almost 100 things on our transportation priorities
Wow.
list.
Uh-huh.
So it's a matter of trying to get at things that should have been done 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Do them in the way that gets us further down the road. So I'm not saying that nobody's looking at it long-term, but it's also it's a steep hill, and it's a difficult one to climb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to back you up, Ned. Mitch mentioned the process is really the Metropolitan Planning Organization Regional Transportation Plan, and they take that look at network type roads, which 29 is. But as Ned said, there's a long list of projects on that plan or local improvements that are necessary, and all 29 North type improvements are prioritized in the context of what's needed in the district and the state. There's still a lot of traffic. We're still a car predominant society.
That being said, we have a lot of transportation dollars getting put to work around here. 118, the exit 118B got rid, and that whole entranceway now onto the interstate, not to mention underneath, is tremendously safer for everybody involved.
Right.
The diverging diamond is going to be an improvement out here. And frankly, as somebody that has to drive, I drive a kid to Monticello, then have to come back to Pantops, I was like dreading having to drive through that construction. They're doing a great job moving people through where they're constructing on this right now. I mean, at some point they're going to have to shut down some lanes, and it's going to get problematic. But so far, VDOT's been doing a good job of keeping that area not a disaster while they're doing that work. Not to mention where other dollars are programmed. So, there are things that were on the list for a long time that are finally getting checked off.
And I think the smart scale process, in my opinion, over the years being here, is actually helping smaller communities, because it really does take an objective look at things. So when there is real documented economic development issues, which are development type of approvals, and the safety issues are there, they're not as much weighted against bigger communities with larger traffic. The ratings of need have become more objective, and I think we benefited from it. That said, there's a lot of projects statewide, a lot still in the county to do, and not a lot of funding.
Anything else for Ned or? No, thank you. All right, next item is other business. I guess should mention that the January meeting will have election of officers. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. What Marty said about the watch list is if anybody has anything new to add to the list, we could possibly bring that up now. But he was planning to do a more extensive review of the watch list in January. Does anybody have anything to add to a watch list anywhere? No. Okay. Any other comments about anything?
I will say, we do anticipate, we're working on a written draft of phase 1. So we hope to get that completed, very much what you heard in the presentations, and we'll be posting that so people can begin to look at it. And we'll have at least some opportunity for you once it gets posted. We hope in early January to get that, give you an opportunity to give us some feedback. So Nancy, if you have questions that you wanted to ask Daniel, you can certainly send those to Daniel and me, and we'll have them in advance for that meeting or respond to them. Anybody who has questions, feel free to do that. We were under a little bit of a time constraint because Daniel did have to get to a meeting and have some prep time before that at 7 o'clock. So we didn't want a discussion of phase 1 to interfere with some important points we wanted to kind of give you a chance to let us know about for phase 2. But anyway, if you've got questions, send them to Daniel and me, and we'll be ready for a period of time to respond to them in January or before that.
I do think that Marty as in meth, was, since he does come right out on Rio from Dunlora, that he probably has insights, and I can certainly suggest to him that he get them to Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if you think, again, as Daniel said, if you think of things at any point in time, let us know or bring them up at the end of this meeting next month when we have a little time to talk about things. We'll keep our ears open.
David, I would definitely throw in over there, biking infrastructure, but we're getting some of the sidewalk pieces done, but there's still some, the Catholic school fenced off on the other side of the sidewalk. So now it does push people, if you walk to the end of that sidewalk down into the road on that corner. I can't think of an immediate solution to that because it's private property right there, but
yeah.
This is a good point for Line and Grade to be looking at that and going, well, how does that pedestrian travel way work where we've got a couple of sidewalk segments in there already, and how do we complete that along both sides?
Right. How do we complete it in the long term or interim improvements until we can get the property to do it? Yeah, good point.
And then Rick and others made comments about that section. The original intent, I believe, I agree with Rick, is that it was not to push traffic onto East Riley Road. It was supposed to, the main traffic was supposed to go down the Parkway. So when I think of that corridor along Old Riley Road, it's like, what can we do to traffic calm that entire area to control speed? With the way the sidewalk projects are working now, there's going to have to be crossing happening across Riley Road. So anything we can do to slow those folks down on both directions in the bigger design of the whole stretch is going to be useful. And then, I don't know if we'll ever be able to get the infrastructure in play around the bend to that southern section going down the hill, but at least from Eco Village's entrance to the downtown, they could easily get to the Meadow Creek Parkway if there was some facility to get them across the little bridge down there that they cross before you head up to Park Street. And then they have to keep in mind that a big part of that curve, the way the houses are below the road, is stormwater management.
Yes.
That anything that they were to think of, they're going to have to make sure they understand how water's flowing, because that can cross that road and create havoc for those houses that are down there.
When we approved the Eco Village development, we did
Yeah.
There are conditions that require them to provide an easement for public access through that property. The problem with that is it doesn't become very visible and it feels like you're walking in the middle of some other neighborhood. So how well that gets used
Right.
is debatable, but we've got something to work with. But I know Daniel and his group is taking a real hard look at what they can do. It's a challenging area.
Yep.
But from that curve to Melbourne's a real important connection to get to those sidewalks and to be able to get over to John Warner. Thanks. Yeah, those are good comments.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, David, did you have anything more?
I do not. You covered it well for me. I was just going to remind people about the elections. Well, that'll be one of the first things you do in your January meeting. So that we will be doing that. And thank you, Lee, for covering. Excellent job. I appreciate it.
And I owe you a meeting, Lee. I know I owe you a meeting, so we'll
Well,
probably
yeah,
target
when-
January. Target
when you get
January
to
for
it.
that, I think.
All right. Unless somebody has an objection to us ending early, I think we can probably adjourn. Any objections?
I move we adjourn.
Well, then, let's
I'll
do it.
second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Thank
All
you all.
right, see you all in January.
Happy holidays, everybody.